Influencers. One of the most disgusting words to describe somebody who posts half-naked pictures of themselves on Instagram, or someone who goes in public and pours milk on themselves.
My milkshake is on the point to the yard! They're mine! They're better than yours! 6 feet! But I got 2 shots! That's what you talk about, clown! All day long, bitch!
But yet, people still seem to love them. Otherwise, why would we have them? But a few days ago, after reading to a group of blind children and saving a cat from a burning building, a thought pondered on me. The thought was, with all these controversies going on within the last year with these random influencers, I always asked myself why. Not really why they happened, but why people seem to be so upset about it. Let's go in order. First up, Bryce Hall. Bryce Hall, who was a member of the Sway House, was going in and out of controversy due to his arrogant behavior and inconsistent relationship with Addison Rae. And his newest one yet is that he's taking steroids, but we'll get to that. I just find it interesting because yes, I get it, Bryce Hall makes TikToks for a living, or whatever else he does to make money, but it seems like influencers are held to a higher standard based off the easiness of their job. Let me explain. John Jones, who is a professional UFC fighter, was able to fail multiple drug tests, hit a pregnant woman with his car and flee the scene, fail more drug tests, and even after all of that, he still has a pretty large fan base and was still able to fight in the UFC. Bryce Hall has been in a few bar fights, and from what I read, it seems like some of these could have been avoided, and most of them seem like they were his fault. So I'm not taking that away from the situation, but I guarantee you 98% of guys who have gone to college before and have joined things like fraternities and overall like to go out, which is very similar to the persona that Bryce Hall and the Sway House try to give. They're almost like the LA version of a fraternity. But those guys who go to school and join fraternities, that a large majority of those guys have tried to get into some bar fights. But for some reason, this kid who makes TikToks for a living and has absolutely no effect on your life has nonstop articles made about him and several TikToks talking about why he's just a terrible person. And in my opinion, that's a pretty normal thing to do for somebody who's his age and lives the kind of life that he does. The next thing he recently admitted to is that he takes steroids.
On like steroids or any type of like enhancement or...
you got me there. Because if I don't answer, that means yes. And if I do answer, I would tell you, yes, I did.
Oh, what the hell? And before I mention why I think he's not doing steroids, in my opinion, let's ask why people were making nonstop TikToks about why he's a horrible person. He's promoting steroids use because he's one of the few influencers to actually openly admit that he takes steroids, instead of promising people this body that is probably never going to be able to be obtained naturally and profiting off of that. Because he was honest and started telling people that he was on steroids, people started making TikToks body shaming him, saying, look, could you imagine taking steroids and this is what you look like? So let's dive into the fact that he's not on steroids. He's on something called SARMs. SARMs is extremely different than steroids. SARMs is marketed as a legal alternative to steroids. It's supposed to give you steroid-like effects without any of the side effects. But while it may help a little bit, it will not give you the same results as taking a real anabolic steroid. For example, testosterone was classified as a steroid. If you are taking testosterone, you are on steroids. Someone who takes something like Tren or D-ball is going to also be on steroids, have a much different effect. So it wouldn't be a fair comparison to say, look, you're on steroids and you don't look that good, because all steroids are different. And SARMs is not a steroid. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to buy it online. You can't even go to a doctor and get a prescription for SARMs. You can tell people who don't really know anything about steroids or SARMs really don't know what it is. So when Josh Richards was asked if he was actually on steroids, you can tell he really doesn't know how to describe it because he clearly doesn't know what SARMs is.
It's not like exactly steroids. It's like some like kind of steroid thing. I don't even know. It's weird.
Kind of steroid.
It's like a testosterone booster.
It's like
There's just a lot of misinformation, and you shouldn't be discouraging somebody from being honest about their steroid use. Anyways, next up, Noah Beck. Noah Beck recently just gotten some heat because he didn't wait to go on his trip to the Bahamas and instead went during the middle of a pandemic.
Going to Bahamas, what do you think about that?
Especially like in the business that we're in, I think that it's like you need some time to kind of disconnect for a little, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what that was meant for.
I'm not saying this was a correct decision, But 90% of the people who are non-stop attacking Noah Beck for this decision would absolutely be going out or doing something very similar if they had the means, funds, or opportunities to do that. There was a doctor on YouTube and TikTok who was preaching about the dangers of the coronavirus, who was non-stop advocating for the fact that you should not be going out to parties, you should be wearing a mask at all times, and he had millions of followers and people loved to take his advice. That doctor, not too long after these videos, was caught on a boat party in Florida.
So here he is partying on a boat.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is not safe behavior, right? That is like the opposite.
That doctor was talked about for maybe about a week, even though he should be held to a way higher standard since he is a doctor, and most of the people that listen to him expect him to be leading by example when it comes to their health. But someone like Noah Beck, who literally makes TikToks for a living, was questioned more about his decision to go on a trip than this doctor was. Again, I'm not saying that he made the right decision. You gotta start asking yourself, are you actually this mad at the influencer? Or are people just envious that the job is super easy that they do? Or just waiting to be mad at them? Last up is Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio. Charlie, Dixie, and the D'Amelio family are just the new young versions of the Kardashian family. They started off as a very upper class family, and after all the success they've had, they are well beyond upper class. For a long time, and myself included, people would ask the question, why are they so successful? Nothing they're doing is groundbreaking work. But most people can just move on and stop watching their content. But the other half of the people get very upset that they see people making so much money doing jobs like this. Been criticized for a lot of things throughout their careers, and it started off, in my opinion, kind of like constructive criticism. Dixie D'Amelio's acting and music career were very subpar. People were very angry that she was getting roles that most people would have to work very, very long and hard for, and she was just given them despite her literally having no talent in that area. And the same goes for her music. Her music was very average. Despite her songs not being very good, she was still technically ranked within the top 5 of most streamed people on Spotify.
Weirds me out is that she goes between singing things very straight and then singing things occasionally with an accent. And then I don't know what she's saying. What is she saying?
Literally passing artists like Juice WRLD and Tyler the Creator, who have been doing music their whole lives. But whatever, that stuff doesn't affect us. But the most notable thing that they went through, when they made a video of a chef preparing them food for the whole family, but after the video was uploaded, people thought that Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio both came across spoiled and disrespectful.
Dramatic.
Don't be so dramatic.
Excuse yourself.
Is she being real? Or is she being dramatic?
Because Dixie D'Amelio refused to eat some snails. I'm the first one to judge these type of influencers, but to be completely honest with you, I have no idea why this made people so mad. Again, since they're so successful, I just think people are looking for things to dislike about them. I'm not saying there isn't things to dislike about most influencers, but some of the stuff seems really petty and makes no sense why they'd focus on this person over another person. Because in my opinion, that video seemed like a typical family eating dinner together, and maybe one of the siblings was in a bad mood that day or something. When a family has the privilege of making that amount of money, people expect them to be held to a higher standard, despite that almost never being the case. So what is my point? Yes, I do think influencers make bad decisions. Most of them do. Most of my channel is me pretty much making fun of other influencers, but I try to focus mainly on the content that they upload. There are no reasons why we should be looking at influencers to make politically correct decisions. I mean, listen, it would be nice, and calling them out, maybe they'll learn in the future, but I just don't see why it's a shock to see somebody who grew up with lots of money act a little bit entitled in some of their videos, especially when you have an audience of millions of people telling you that everything you do is right. I think that would start going to most people's heads. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap the video up there. If you liked the video, make sure you like the video. If you didn't like the video, please show up at my house with a camera and yell at me for not wanting to eat my chef's food. I don't have a chef, but you get the point. Anyways, that's gonna be it. Thank you, and have a good day.